Karoline Leavitt just had a full-on meltdown after yet another Trump scandal exploded into public view. This time, it's about a massive lie Trump told the American people after launching airstrikes on Iran. And now, the receipts are out. What you're about to hear is a brutal takedown, one that exposes just how reckless, unlawful, and downright delusional Trump's latest military flex really was.
You were briefed on the strike against Iran on Thursday. Based on the intelligence that you have received, Senator, would you have ordered that strike if you were commander-in-chief?
Well, what President Trump told the country is that that Iran's nuclear capability was obliterated, and it just was not obliterated. In fact, the International Atomic Energy Commission just confirmed that we only set back their program by a handful of months. We were at the negotiating table trying to come to a diplomatic agreement. No, I would not have authorized strikes literally at the moment that we were sitting down with the Iranians trying to come to a peaceful settlement. The only way that you are going to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is an agreement, because as open reporting has suggested, these strikes did not destroy all of their enriched uranium. It did not destroy all of their centrifuges, and it certainly didn't destroy their knowledge. And so it stands to reason that they can reconstitute their nuclear program within months. And what are we going to do? We're going to carry out these massive $100 million strikes every 3 or 4 months? No, you need a diplomatic agreement, and these strikes ultimately set back those diplomatic conversations.
Well, let me follow up with you, because you've said the strikes were illegal because they were carried out without congressional approval. Your colleague, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, actually took it a step further. She said it's grounds for impeachment. Senator, do you agree with that? Is the fact that President Trump acted unilaterally grounds for impeachment?
Well, that's a decision the House makes. That's, not a decision the Senate makes. But it is clear that this is illegal. I know he says that these were, time-limited strikes. They were targeted strikes.
But do you think she's on the right track, Senator? Do you think she's on the right track by suggesting he should be impeached over not going to Congress first?
Well, again, that's a decision the House makes. But I will say, if you compare his conduct in this administration to the conduct that he got impeached for in the first administration, his conduct in this administration is much worse, much more lawless, and much more unconstitutional.
Donald Trump just tried to sell a Hollywood-style explosion in Iran as a total victory. But here's the thing. His own Pentagon basically whispered, not quite, boss. Trump's not obsessed with results. He's obsessed with credit. If the mission was a flop, but there's a shot of a fireball and he can shout "mission accomplished" on Truth Social, that's all he needs. The reality? Intelligence says Iran moved their uranium before the strike because Trump broadcasted his plans like a bad DJ set. The man dropped hints so obvious, Iran had time to pack up the nukes like they were closing early for the weekend. But instead of owning the debacle, Trump does what Trump does best: denial, spin, and more denial.
Do you think that the Iran regime hid some of the enriched uranium before the strikes?
No. You mean, did they take it out of the deep one? No.
Because you were pretty clear you can't have a weapon. You're going to have to come to the talk. Something's going to happen.
I don't think they did. No, I think, first of all, it's very hard to do. It's very dangerous to do. It's very heavy, very, very heavy. It's a very hard thing to do. Plus, we didn't give them much notice because they didn't know we were coming until just, then. And nobody thought we'd go after that site because everybody said that site is impenetrable. You can't, you're not going to be able. This way they did. It's at the bottom of a mountain. And it's granite. Granite's the hardest stone, and it's granite. So, no, they didn't. But I do believe they had people there because you had cars. They were saying cars.
Ah, yes. According to Trump, there's simply no way Iran could have moved the uranium. Why? Because, folks, and I quote, "It's heavy. Very, very heavy." That's his expert analysis. The man thinks uranium is basically furniture. Trump's whole pitch is "we surprised them," and granite is the hardest rock, like he's explaining a Minecraft mission instead of international diplomacy. But the actual truth, well, it leaked, and now Trump's team, especially Karoline Leavitt, is scrambling like someone just hit the panic button at Mar-a-Lago. Here's the call that blew the whole thing wide open.
Nonsense. Leavitt melts down as leaked Iranian call disputes Trump bomb bomb claim. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt strongly disputed details from an intercepted Iranian call that suggested damage to the country's nuclear program was not as extensive as Donald Trump has claimed. On Sunday, the Washington Post first reported the existence of signal intelligence, which included Iranian government officials discussing the recent U.S. attacks on nuclear facilities. The communications intended to be private included Iranian government officials speculating as to why the strikes directed by Donald Trump were not as destructive and extensive as they anticipated, these people said. For his part, Trump has claimed that Iran's nuclear program was completely and totally obliterated. Leavitt did not deny that the call had been intercepted, but disagreed with conclusions suggesting Trump's statements were wrong. It's shameful that the Washington Post is helping people commit felonies by publishing out-of-context leaks, she told the paper. The notion that unnamed Iranian officials would know what happened under hundreds of feet of rubble is nonsense. Their nuclear weapons program is over forever.
So Karoline Leavitt is in DEFCON 5 meltdown mode, and honestly, it's comedy gold. She's waving her arms, crying fake news, and claiming Iran's nukes were obliterated forever. Girl, are you reading from a Michael Bay script? Meanwhile, back in reality, that intercepted call, yeah, the one she's panicking about, directly contradicts Trump's little fairy tale about the strike. But rather than admit even a shred of reality, she's blaming the Washington Post for publishing a fact. Classic. And just when you think it couldn't get dumber, enter Lindsey Graham, war's biggest fanboy, stomping in with his, well, actually, the damage wasn't that bad. Lindsey, you good? You're starting to sound like you want to personally lead the charge. Maybe trade that Senate chair for a helmet and some fatigues. No, just gonna cheerlead from the Capitol steps again. And then, thank God, someone with a working brain stepped in. Senator Adam Schiff called this out hard, and we've got the clip that breaks Lindsey's war crush wide open.
The founders split the government's wartime powers just as they divided responsibilities for so many other things. It is Congress which declares war, which raises an army and a navy, and pays for the financial costs of defense and war. And keep in mind, the need for congressional approval of war making was not hypothetical to the founders. The United States had just fought a war against a king, and the founders did not want to put the power to start another war in the hands of any single person. The framers put their thinking on parchment. And in a letter to Thomas Jefferson in the summer of 1789, James Madison reflected on how they had approached this question of war power, which was the subject of much debate in Philadelphia at the Constitutional Convention. He said, "We have already given in one example an effectual check on the dog of war by transferring the power of letting him loose from the executive to the legislative body, from those who are to spend to those who are to pay. From those who are to spend to those who are to pay." That is, because a decision as consequential as entering into war requires informed debate and buy-in from the people's representative and the public, from us here in the Senate and from our colleagues in the House. Because we need to weigh the benefits and the risks for our constituents and for the country as a whole. Because a decision like this one should be insulated from partisan politics and not made with haste or with blinders on.
Adam Schiff just laid down a history lesson Trump clearly skipped or shredded. The founders didn't fight a king just to hand war powers to another one in a bad spray tan. The whole point was to keep impulsive decisions, like blowing up half of Iran on a whim, in check. Schiff quoted Madison like a mic drop: "From those who are to spend to those who are to pay." Translation: Congress decides, not the guy rage posting on social media. And now, Schiff is about to explain exactly why this fight still matters. You'll want to hear this.
There are perhaps senators in this body who will say this debate is no longer needed. The mission is over. Iran has backed down. A lasting ceasefire is in place. The threat has passed. And I would say to them, I don't know that to be true, and neither do you. And on behalf of all those who could and would pay, we should not allow this great and solemn power to make war to be usurped any longer. The only way for us to know whether the United States might be drawn into a broader conflict is if we exercise our authority to prevent it, or to determine that the Congress wants to affirmatively provide a president with the authorization to use force. So I am a yes on this resolution. And if the Senate votes to bring this resolution before the body, which I hope it will see the wisdom of doing, I will move an amendment that I have filed with Senators Kim and Kaine that I would hope would receive all of our support. Our amendment makes clear what is implicit in Senator Kaine's resolution already, and that is that terminating the use of U.S. armed forces against Iran does not affect the ability of the United States to defend itself, to share intelligence with Israel or our other partner nations, or to assist them in taking defensive measures to protect themselves from an attack by Iran or its proxies. Our intent in this amendment is to make it crystal clear that calling up and passing this resolution would in no way restrict the United States' ability to defend itself or our partners. And with that question settled, we should be able to turn to the real need for this debate. Should this Congress continue to abdicate our constitutional duty to an administration that at every turn has deemed us irrelevant?
Schiff isn't just making a speech. He's holding up the Constitution like a mirror to Trump's chaos. He's saying, this isn't about politics, it's about power. Who has it and who's abusing it? Trump acted like he could bomb a country on impulse and Congress should just clap from the sidelines. Schiff's amendment makes it crystal clear. Defending ourselves and our allies, still on the table, but endless war without oversight? Absolutely not. And just when you think he's done, Schiff gears up to go even further, because this fight, oh, he's just getting started.
An administration that for too long deferred its obligation to brief Congress and has reportedly threatened to take steps to choke off the amount of information we have and need to assess the impact and the consequences of unilateral military action. An administration that openly disdains and threatens a free press, ignoring the fact that our fourth estate exists to ask questions for the people, even if those questions are uncomfortable, especially when those questions are uncomfortable, and shine a light on the places where tyranny and despotism can grow and foster and fester. Because here's the bottom line. Article 1, Section 8 says, the Congress shall have the power to declare war. And every American should know that Congress is not giving up on its most basic constitutional right to debate and determine whether U.S. forces undertake further operations, offensive operations, against the Iranian regime or any other. This resolution, with my amendment, would give senators confidence that a vote on that question will in no way put American troops or our allies at increased risk, and the underlying resolution would give the American people the confidence of knowing that they will not be dragged into another war without their consent. There must be a check on the dogs of war. There must be a voice for those who will pay the costs of going to war. And the Senate must be that voice. I yield back.
Adam Schiff just torched the entire foundation of Trump's reckless war fantasies. And he did it with the Constitution in one hand and reality in the other. This wasn't just a speech, it was a warning. Schiff called out the administration for gagging Congress, silencing the press, and trying to drag the country into another conflict without permission, all while pretending the Constitution is just optional reading. Let's be real, Trump doesn't want checks, he wants cheerleaders. But Article 1, Section 8 isn't a suggestion, it's law. And Schiff made it clear, Congress isn't giving up that power. Not now, not ever. There has to be a voice that says, not in our name. And if Trump won't listen, the Senate damn well better speak louder. If you want more breakdowns like this, make sure to like and subscribe, because what's coming next in the Trump saga, you won't believe it.